Welcome to No More Bullshift. I'm Peggy.
And I'm Marci.
We are two women who believe that life's trials aren't happening to us, they're happening for us.
And we're here to help you turn every why me into watch me.
Because shifting out of victim mode and into empowerment is what we do best.
So join us as we cut through the bullshift and help you see how strong you really are.
Hey, Marci.
Hey, Peggy.
All right, what are we talking about today?
Well, because it's still January and we're on the theme of goal setting, last week's episode we talked about tangible physical steps to take to hit those goals. This week we're talking about thoughts and patterns emotionally to support you in hitting those goals.
Okay, so I have a question for you before we start.
Oh, yeah.
What is one big mental shift you've had to make in your life?
Ooh, good question. I think right off the top of my head, I think for my brain, it's really good if I just think something is possible. Like when I realize that, because sometimes I'll be on like what I call a shame storm, a little spiral, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, it could be this, it could be that. But the second I pause and say, well, maybe it won't. Maybe it actually won't be like that. Then I'm like I can feel my shoulders go down a little bit and a little more like, oh, that's also a possibility. Maybe it won't, instead of like trying to plan for this negative thing that could happen, but maybe it won't. So maybe it won't even be a thing. What about you?
So for me, I think a theme has always been playing small so that other people would be big. I was always afraid of outshining other people and what that would cost me if I did.
Wow.
It drove a lot of my behavioral patterns.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like, what's an example?
This is a silly one that actually had lasting effects on me that I've literally just healed. And when I was in high school, growing up, I was a cheerleader. About third grade on in Florida, which is the mecca of cheerleading. And I was terrible. I had no coordination, but I was strong. I was always very, very strong. And so going through middle school, I was on a very good Pee-wee team, and we competed, and we were very, pretty good at it. But I was still the worst cheerleader, but I was strong. So I was always on the team, blah, blah, blah. And in the summer between 8th and ninth grade, which you could still do Pee-wee cheerleading, even going into high school, we went to cheer camp, which was the Universal Cheerleading Association ran this at the University of Florida. And we went there, and we as a team went, and I don't know what happened that week. Even with our team, I don't know what happened. We went in the worst of everybody that was there, and we had a statewide competition. Miami Dolphin cheerleaders were like the judges, everything, and we came in second.
Wow.
Yeah, like something shifted, but something really shifted with me. I came back from that, and I literally went from being the worst cheerleader to being the best one on our team. I can't tell you how it happened. I don't know anything on how that evolution happened, but it was great. And so went into high school and was kind of dual doing this. And, you have tryouts and all of that. And I was the only freshman that made varsity.
Nice.
Which was great, right? You would think. But I lived across the street from our high school. And so, and my best friend lived down the street. And so I would have all of my friends that I grew up cheering with would come to our house and practice. And so every day for the 2 weeks of tryouts, we would be in my backyard and we would practice. And then finally we came to tryouts. And my best friend and I walked across the street to school and did the tryout. And this is abnormal. They never did this after this, but they actually called the team while we were all there before we got dismissed for the day. And I was the first name they called. And none of my friends got called.
Oh.
So I had to walk home with Amber. And I was planning on having a party at my house, just like a little like fun, it's over party. And a lot of my friends made JV. I think they all made JV. And we get back to as we were walking to my house, I heard what you said about us. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I never talked bad about my friends.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my game.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, no, I heard that you told everybody, all the older girls, that you knew none of us were going to make it because we sucked while we were practicing at your house.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was like, who the fuck told you that? That's not true. And she never told me.
Yeah.
Who told her that?
Because no one did.
Because nobody did. Or maybe somebody did. I don't know. But after that day, I lost all my friends that I had grown up with, like all of them. And I'm on this cheerleading squad. A girl from Orlando ended up moving in, and she was going to be a sophomore also. So I ended up with somebody my age, but she got bullied so badly that she ended up moving.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that why you feel like you played small for a long time?
I think that's why I started to play small, because I was worried about what it would cost me. It was really, really tough. It was really, really hard. And I had to like rebuild my whole friend group and the whole 9 yards. And I've never really realized it. And it was the first time I really wanted something. It's the first time in my life I can remember really wanting something and busting my ass to get it.
Yeah.
Like they would leave my house after practice and I would be in the backyard and I would keep practicing. And it was to the point, you know how like when you're so obsessed with something, even in your dreams, you're doing it?
Yes, totally.
I was doing the routines in my dreams.
Oh, yeah.
Like I wanted it, but I didn't want it alone. I wanted it with everybody.
Right.
And then I got it. And I realized I didn't want what it cost me.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the first time I put on my mask.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's big.
Yeah, it was huge. It was
Yeah.
huge, but I never knew it. My whole life, I actually looked at that time as a gift, because I won't even go to the whole story, but it ended up shifting a lot of things where I went into this like hybrid work program, school program my junior year, because I stopped cheering, and that's how I ended up meeting my husband, and that's how I ended up having this amazing career and all of these things. That I always looked at it from a gift perspective, but I never looked at it for why I always, when I got to the pinnacle of an opportunity in a career, shifted careers and moved into another career, and why I put on all of this weight so I wouldn't be pretty. I wouldn't threaten other people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because to me, right away, I think those girls were not your friends.
No, absolutely. But, when you're this 14-year-old girl,
Right.
especially one without like a mom who's like checked in,
Right.
and you don't have anybody really processing that through, you don't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah.
You just think you're wrong.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It just becomes something, that's the sneaky thing of mental patterns. It becomes something that you bury so deep, you don't even realize how it's driving your behavioral choices.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think is a perfect segue into these thought patterns to reach the goals. So let's talk about that. I mean, tangible goals are very important. And yes, you will have some physical discomforts and physical things to overcome to reach the goals. But I actually think the bigger mountain is kind of like, hacking into your brain and resetting some thoughts to empower yourself to not slip into victim mode to achieve them.
And what's so interesting is that my entire life, because I was a victim, that's not the moment I was a victim. I was a victim very early on in my life, and I never claimed that. I always thought, I don't have victim mentality.
Yeah.
I'm not a victim. I'm the strong, confident woman. I can achieve anything, any goal I have, I can do it. And I never saw that I actually had been living in victim mentality.
Wow.
It was really sneaky.
Wait, okay, how was it sneaky? Like, what was it?
It was that I wasn't a victim of the big thing. I always thought it was the big thing, that moment that I had buried.
Yeah.
And that was shaping decisions, even though I never felt any kind of way about that.
Yeah.
One way or the other. I just never felt any kind of a way about it. And I thought, gosh, I've really buried that. I've really like hidden that from myself, but I'm functioning. That's why I always resisted therapy, because I'm like, well, I don't want them getting into my compartments, my baggage. It's working for me, right?
Right.
So I didn't want to pull it out. And then finally I got brave and I did pull it out during my weight loss journey. I thought, well, I've got to address this. If I don't address this big thing,
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to stay consistent. I'm going to put this weight right back on. And I started therapy and we did address the big thing. And I was like, she's like, you don't seem to be being held back by this. You actually do seem like someone who this isn't impacting them. And I remember then I started yoga and we were kind of talking about energy and Reiki and breath work. And I didn't know anything about any of it. And, someone said, during therapeutic breath work, that's the stuff that you're storing in your body. It's really going to come out. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to be a brave bitch. I'm going to go do this group therapeutic breath work. I feel sorry for everybody in the group because if it comes out, and it didn't come out. I had this really beautiful experience. It's never come out. And I was talking to someone, they're like, well, maybe you just don't store trauma. Maybe you're just one of those rare people who doesn't store trauma. You just move through it. And I thought, yeah, that definitely is who I am. I'm like, but if that's true, why was I 303 pounds?
Right.
Because those are not the patterns of somebody who doesn't have something that they're processing through. And that's when I started to do the work.
Interesting. That is really interesting. Wow.
So,
yeah. And do you think anyone that's like struggling with weight has like traumas? They're like, that's like all the same mask, or not really? Or you don't know?
I don't think it is. Yes, is the answer. I think when we struggle,
Yeah.
we are masking.
Any struggle.
Cigarettes are a mask. Overworking is a mask. Overparenting is a mask. Overeating is a mask. Overspending is a mask. These are ways we hide. And it keeps us safe even when it doesn't make sense. It creates this sense of safety for us, which is why we go back to it.
Wow. Interesting. And so probably any type of addiction, because a lot of those things you just said, I think, are wrapped up into addiction.
I don't think everybody sees it as addiction, though. I think we are very evolved species.
It's kind of the same thing with this mentality and the mental space to achieve the goals for the year, the resolutions for the year. It's easy to get distracted with things that like aren't bad, like overworking or busying yourself or diving into your kids' activity. But in reality, what you're doing is choosing not to address the elephant in the room, and you're kind of dancing all around it rather than like face the music.
And why does that matter? Why does that matter? Well, there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. This book is all about stored trauma. Your body is going to store it. And I just had this conversation with someone today who's dealing with anxiety. And she said to me, well, I don't feel anxious. And I'm like, but you've got this happening, this happening, this happening, and this happening. I'm anxious just hearing about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how could you not be anxious? The most evolved person on this planet would have anxiety
Yes.
around all of these factors. And anxiety is not something we should be afraid of.
Right.
At all. It's a natural reaction to stress.
Right.
To pressure. It's healthy if we allow it to have its voice and we can be an observer and just hear it, move through it, and let it go, and just realize, okay, well, it's just an emotion. It's just one way of looking at things, and now I'm going to let that go. But it's when we store it, when we don't give it its voice, that then it becomes something in our body, and our body is going, you need to listen to me, and I am going to give you heart palpitations, shortness of breath. I'm going to make you think you're having a heart attack because you need to process this.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up somewhere because
Right.
you aren't slowing down to listen.
Right. Yes. And anxiety is so interesting because it only lives in the future. It's all about that, like, guilt, shame lives in the past. Something happened in the past. Anxiety is fear of something in the future. It's never in the now, which is like very powerful if you can get present in your body. That is also part of that, like, releasing and being free.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about dealing with emotional patterns and being a victim, right? So victim mentality, a lot of the times we think, oh, well, if I feel this feeling, if I give it a voice, if I let it have its way with me for a moment, I'm leaning into that victim mentality instead of moving through it and taking control and taking my power back. Two things can be true at the same time. You can have a negative feeling or a feeling that feels negative. It actually has a positive influence over you if used properly, but you can have this emotion that's uncomfortable and sit with it and still transcend it. It doesn't have to drive your behavior, but it does need to be listened to because there's wisdom hidden there.
That's good. And that is something I struggle with, is like sitting in it.
Bypassing is hard, and a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
Because it works for us.
Yes.
Until it doesn't.
Yes. Okay, so what do we think are some sneaky thought patterns that can negatively affect someone trying to reach, let's just call it a New Year's resolution goal? What are like maybe 2 sneaky thought patterns?
So I think we all okay, let's just say you've got, well, any goal really. I'm going to start on Monday. I'll start on Monday. I'll start on Monday.
Yeah.
It's Friday. Okay, well, I'm going to start on Monday, so I should probably go ham this weekend because on Monday, I'm never going to do this thing again.
Yeah.
I think that extreme thought process is really one that trips people up.
That's good. That's good.
What about you?
I kind of go to like, this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm going to have to make it just like it's going to be so difficult. I'm going to have to grit my teeth. And I just think it's like you are already going to defeat yourself before you even get off the ground. Like you're already setting yourself up to quit. Like, what if it's light? What if it's kind of fun? What if you discover something new about yourself? What if it's easier than you could have imagined?
And how about this? How about this thought? I can do hard things because I've done much harder things than this.
Ooh, that is so good. That takes me to this. One of my clients read this article on I don't know, I think the New York Times or something, but it was basically about how think about the hardest thing you've ever done or achieved. Maybe it's like a PhD or given natural childbirth or left your father's company or whatever the hardest thing you've ever done. And then compare it to something you're struggling with right now. You can do it. Mm-hmm. And so this client of mine said this to her son that's an actuary. And she was thinking about it, talking about it in that he has these big tests he has to take and he can do it. He can do it. But what he was actually struggling with was his weight, funny enough. So she sends the article and he's like, oh, Mom, this is so great. I've already passed all these tests, so I know I can keep eating healthy. And she was like, what the heck? She had no idea he was struggling with that. But I think it is a really good reminder, think about something really incredible you have accomplished. And if you can't come up with something, you've already most likely, if you're listening to this, learned to walk, learned to talk. You learned a language. I mean, that's amazing. You've learned to feed yourself and how to, hopefully hygienically take care of yourself. And all these things you've already accomplished, you're doing them every day without even thinking a second thought. So think of something that was really challenging and you just did it and you learned it because you didn't give up and you achieved it because you never gave up. And then apply that I was able to do all of this, so maybe I can do this new thing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really good. I think we a lot of times just self-sabotage because we create this monster in our head. It's like the stuffed animal at night when the lights are off that suddenly turns into this big scary poltergeist.
Yes.
And then you turn the lights on and you're like, it was just the bear in the corner and I put my raincoat on it.
Right.
And so it made it look scary. It's not so scary. But we don't strip it of its power.
Yes.
If we just give it that label. This is too hard for me.
Right.
Prove yourself wrong.
Yeah.
Prove it wrong.
Yeah.
And once you start to take your power back in those situations, it's amazing how many other situations you start to take your power back in
Right.
because you realize, oh, I can. And it's not as sticky as I thought it would be.
Yes. No, I think that's so good. I
Yeah,
think that's good.
agreed. So, what's another mindset that you feel like self sabotages?
Another mindset. I think when people fall into like old patterns and just don't feel like they can adopt a new thought. I think when people are just like, well, here I go again, failed again, and they just spiral when they've only fallen off the wagon a little bit. Or they fall off the wagon a little bit and then they keep falling versus like stopping it there. Like if somebody eats bad one meal a day and then they're like, well, screw it, the whole day's ruined. Not really. You could get right back on course.
It's an all or nothing approach, right? I'm going to be
Yes.
100% true to this new plan, or I'm not going to be true to it at all.
Right.
There's no balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we do fall into that. Completely do fall into that.
Yes.
You know, it'd be like, let me just use us doing this podcast as an example. Let's say we wanted to do the podcast on a Tuesday and the studio was already booked and there was only an hour open. And we went, oh, screw it. We could only do, 1 or 2 episodes. We really wanted to get a month in. Let's just not do it. Really? Really? So we're going to delay progress because we couldn't get it all in rather than have 2 episodes ready to go.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but we're extremist.
Yeah.
Because that's what we see in our world is we live in this world of fast moving paces and we've got so many voices in our head telling us what to do and how it should look. And so we let those voices drown out our common sense.
Right. Right. No, I think that's really good. And I think it's important to just be someone that shows up for yourself. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, you've got to take care of you. And that includes goals and your nervous system and your peace. It's only you that can actually take care of it. Like, you might have best friends and a spouse that loves you and they're going to help you. But at the end of the day, only you can choose your thoughts. And only you know what's even going through your brain at the moment. But I think it's really important to like own that. Own what's yours to control, and you got to let go of the rest.
Even the people who love us the most are going to put their own self-interest ahead of yours. And so without even realizing it, there's a narrative being played out that serves their purpose. And you're playing a role in that. So if you are prioritizing yourself, you are shifting that power dynamic. And you are saying, okay, your words are a sword or a wand.
Ooh, I love that. That is good.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, yeah, I really like that. That is good.
And of all the people that betray you, the one that hurts the most is yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And we betray ourselves all the time. You are saying things to yourself that you would never say to someone you love.
Right. And I mean, there is something very powerful when it comes to like thought patterns. Not just to say, I'm not going to have negative self-talk, but you have to do the opposite. You have to make conscious decisions, like, 3 times a day or whatever. Say something nice to yourself. When I was 12 years old, I looked in the mirror in my bedroom and I said, Marci, you're going to be known for 2 things. 1, being very positive, and 2, being a really great dancer at weddings. And
As one does at 12.
Right. That
This
was
is
my
life goal.
Hashtag life goals. Right. And gosh darn it, I did it. I just like every time a negative thought would pop into my head, I would strategically be like, nope, find another one, like counter it, or counter it twice. Think of 2 good thoughts. And obviously in the same year, I practiced all my dance moves, and I am a really good dancer at weddings. If you've been with me, you know the moves. But
And I just want to interrupt you here because I think we don't talk enough about your story.
Oh,
And Marcy didn't come from a place of ease. She had very traumatic things that would have spiraled a lot of women into victim mode, even in her current life stage. And to be 12 and transcend that and then have life kind of fall apart, if you will, and maintain that is not a small thing.
true. Yes. Because then when I was 16, my parents got divorced. My mom moved across the country and left me with my dad. Same year my sister went to college. So it was just me and him. And he's the best, but very introverted. And I'm very extroverted. So that time together grew us, but it was not easy. And your parents getting divorced at 16 is rough. And then
And
living
your
with
mom leaving you?
yeah, living with your dad and being like, hey, by the way, I need tampons this month, this time, just all the thing. Or like, can you zip this prom dress? All that stuff. But yeah, I do think that like choosing those good thoughts and really rewiring my own brain to seek out the good is huge.
Yeah, there's always good. There is always good, but it is not always easy to see the good.
Right. But I think that's a part of it. In this year of growth, you got to find it. And stopping negative self-talk, I think really starts with choosing positive self-talk.
I agree. I also think if you want to shift behavior long term, you have got to find your mask. And that's where your work lies. And how are you going to do that? How are you going to find the thing? Because it's sneaky. You have got that so buried, you don't even know it's there. And you're going to find that in the contraction. So that's why sitting with your body, that's why somatic work is so important. That's why getting comfortable with your thoughts in your head
Yeah.
and not trying to drown them out and numb them with TV, with your phone, just giving that meditation, you are going to see one way that's really great that I learned early on in my practice is just free writing. Just in the morning, just write every thought that pops into your head. Just start to write it and then go back and reread it. And like, okay, I did my grocery list. That's great. Okay, yep, I got to pay that bill. That's great. Oh, here, this thing where I said my mom really pissed me off yesterday when she said this, that might be some work I might need to circle back to this thought, to this moment. This might have some meat there. And so then you just pick out the things that you need to go back and revisit and say, okay, is this deeper? Is this influencing some of these behavioral patterns? And if so, if every time I'm with my mom, all I want after that is a ho-ho or a cookie, what is it that's triggering me when I'm with my mom? It's not about my mom. My mom is a mirror. But what is she mirroring back to me? Because that's where my healing is. That's where I've got to make peace and I've got to reframe my mindset.
That's good. I really love that. Yeah.
It's not easy, but there's more that goes into lasting change than the tangibles, than the physical things that you do. Or you're going to relapse, you're going to yo-yo, you are going to find yourself back in that place because it's very easy to be good when life is easy. And we get caught up in the moments of ease and doing all the right things and think we've created a habit. It's when life is hard that you find out whether or not you've created the lasting change.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like lifting weights, right? At first, you just need that muscle, that deeper, I got my own back muscle to be strong. Because when the hard times come, you're going to need that strength.
Absolutely. And there's it's okay to be weak in a moment. It's okay to cry. It's okay to rage. And it's okay to go back and say, this feels very uncomfortable, to go talk to my inner child and tell her she's safe and that I hear her and I've become the woman she hoped I would become or the man that he hoped I would be. Those things feel silly. They feel, because they're not tangible. And we're taught to not lean into that. And we're taught that those things are weird. And people don't do that because we're big and we're strong. But you're not in this position because what you've been doing is working.
True. Yeah, that's good. If you want a different result, you got to change your actions.
You got to be open to other things.
Yes. Okay. I think that's a good place to leave it.
Agreed.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love that.
Good luck, guys. You
All
got
right.
this.
Yes.
All right. That's our shift for today.
Go live, laugh, and do one bold thing before the next episode drops.
Follow us at No More Bullshift and keep the conversation going.
Because if you can't laugh about it,
You probably still need to shift it.